Hi everyone, back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day. And surprise, surprise, it's about Callum Wilson. I have been away with work on my Christmas party actually. So no drunken escapades from me, just a little bit of Jean-Claude Van Damme dancing and festive cheer. But I did see the news about Callum Wilson. I thought I'd jump on and do a video the minute I come back just to talk about it really. And it's not really a surprise, to be honest with you. You know, I was going to think about coming on here and ranting and raving about how Callum's perpetually knackered and he's wrapped up in more bandages than mum or they ever living. But, you know, it doesn't seem right in the kind of context of things, you know, just given some of the abuse that the lad's taken, you know, following the recent injury, which I don't really agree with. But I'm going to get into this in a second. Now, who do I blame for the situation with Callum Wilson? I blame the club, to be honest with you. And I also blame a little bit of the manager on this as well. I'll get into that in a minute. Somebody jumped at me on social media for that, but it was X, so it was totally unsurprising, to be fair. But talking about Callum himself, so Callum's been in the club for 4 years, and his record is ridiculous when he's fit. That's the caveat, when he's fit. So he's got 48 goals, I think 112 appearances or something. And when Callum's fit, you know, he's quick, he's strong, and he's a brilliant finisher. He plays with charisma. You know, he can back up and fight against the defender. He can have quick feet and turn and score all kinds of goals. You know, volleys, pens, headers, you know, chips, little flicks around the corner, all sorts of goals. But Callum has had a real checkered past with injury. And you know, he's getting to that age now at 32 years old where his body has just given up on him. It really is. He's tried to invest in, you know, different kind of methods and practices and all this kind of stuff to really get himself right. And what's happened, he's pulled a hamstring. He's now going to be out for about 2 months, I think. Now, Callum's contract runs out in the summer. And for me, the club would be absolutely mad to renew it. They really would. And Eddie Howe would be mad to renew it as well. And I do blame a little bit of Eddie's loyalty to this player for the fact that he's still at this football club. I'll get back to that in a second. But of course, it's frustrating because we've only got Alexander Isak and Callum Wilson and Will Asula, who Eddie doesn't deem to be Eddie ready to play in the Premier League. You know, personally, I was a bit underwhelmed by the sign of Asula. A lot of people are, you know, living in hope that he's going to be this brilliant player. And I'm not sure that he will be. I think Delap, who went to Ipswich, would have been a better signing in all honesty. You know, there's talk about Evan Ferguson on loan, which we did a video about the other day. You know, those are the kind of players that excite me a little bit more. Players who are capable of scoring goals in the Premier League, not a player who can't get one single goal in 20 odd appearances for Sheffield United, even when that stupid big gypsy-looking twat Bertrand Diaz scored goals in that team as well. But we'll get back into Callum Wilson. That's what this video is about. So, you know, Callum as a character, as a bloke, I think he's brilliant. You know, he's part of that leadership squad that Eddie has. But if you look through that leadership squad of players, you know, they're all aging out. You know, Fabian Schär, Callum Wilson, you know, Dan Burn, they're all kind of aging out. They're all on the wrong side of 30, Trips and all that as well. And they're all coming to kind of the end of their rope, really, with Newcastle, with the exception of Burn, probably, who's been a bit rejuvenated this season. But the reason Burn's been rejuvenated is because Botman's been out and we've been pretty shit with the backs to the wall, and that's where Burn excels. He's that kind of a last-ditch type defender. But going back to Callum himself, why do I blame the club and why do I blame the manager? Now, what we should have done with Callum Wilson, who had injury problems before any of this stuff happened, we should have cashed in on Callum Wilson and sold him when his stock was at his highest, when we qualified for the Champions League, and he could have got 25 million quid, arguably 30 million quid for him, because he was a Champions League centre-forward in many people's eyes. He was never really a Champions League player. As good as he is in the Premier League, he's not a Champions League striker. Same as Miguel Almiron's not a Champions League winger. You know, and those players should have been cashed in on at the height of their market value, and we could have reinvested in the squad, bought better quality players, or kept a hold of some of the talented young players coming through, like Elliot Anderson and Yankuba Minteh, for example, and not had a scramble for PSR where we put all of our big stars up for sale and rattled them and made them feel a little bit uneasy about their future at the football club. So that was a big problem there. But with Callum, injuries were just never far away from him, you know, and unfortunately he can never get a run of games. He comes back into the team and he looks good and he bangs in a few goals, and him and Isak challenge each other. Then, you know, he breaks down or Isak breaks down, and then they both break down together. And then when there were no strikers and Anthony Gordon playing through the middle, which just doesn't work. And the fact that Eddie Howe keeps going back and talking about Gordon through the middle is just batshit crazy as well. He's not a fucking centre forward, Eddie. Stop trying it. Stop putting him in there. He's not a striker. He played there for England in the 21s or whatever, but he had so much quality around him giving him the ball. You know, it was hard to miss in that fucking centre-forward position. He's not got that as a centre-forward in Newcastle United. He's not reading the game. He's not reading the runs from other players like Harvey Barnes, etc., etc. He's not a centre-forward. You're going to ruin a kid's game if you keep playing in there. But on Callum Wilson, for me, there's no way he should be a Newcastle United player next season. I think they should just let his contract run down and get rid of him in the summer on a free, because nobody's going to sign the player, because although he's 1 and 2 when he's fit, he's never fit. And now he's 32, his body is struggling. I mean, he come on against Brentford, he did nothing really, much like everybody else, and he's pulled a hamstring in that game. Jesus Christ, what's he going to be doing when we're in a blood and guts kind of to the wall game? He's going to snap into a million pieces like the fucking T-1000, the Terminator. Now, as frustrating as it is for Callum Wilson to be injured again, as Newcastle fans were wondering why the fuck he wasn't moved on and cashed in on and upgraded on, there is no excuse for abusing this bloke. I can't stand when people do that. Abusing players like that, sending them messages, commenting on threads, giving him loads of dogs abuse to the point where Callum Wilson even comes out and makes a statement about it because he almost feels like he has to. Now, Callum Wilson doesn't have to explain to us why he's injured. Of course, he's devastated. He doesn't want to be injured. No player wants to be injured. The frustration with the fans, I believe, is multifaceted. It isn't just the fact that Callum's just perpetually injured. It's the fact that the club haven't been able to manage his fitness, haven't been able to manage the player himself, move him on, upgrade, that kind of stuff. So there's been huge failings here by the football club in all sorts of different areas. From the player himself, maybe not looking after himself, maybe a bit better earlier on in his career, potentially, I don't know. But the manager, maybe being a bit too loyal to him and not having that ruthless streak. That's to me what separates Eddie Howe from an elite manager. He's too loyal and too nice to these lads. When we qualify for the Champions League, a lot of managers would have said, thanks a lot, guys, off you fuck, and they would have sold them to whatever, Everton, Fulham, West Ham, Leicester, you name it. They all would have went and played for those clubs, and we would have got better players in those positions. And who knows, they might have actually took us in the knockouts of the Champions League. You just don't know. But that's the problem Eddie has. He's not ruthless enough with these players, and that's an issue for him. But the management of the actual club as well, the board, Amanda Staveley, Mehrdad Ghedussi, as wonderful as they were, passionate and enthused and everything, totally inexperienced. Darren Eales as well, not quite sure what they're doing. Dan Ashworth came and then he went. Mitchell's there now. Mitchell said it was a mess, and a lot of people give him shit for it, but I think he was actually right. It was a mess. Signing players in the wrong positions, but also not cashing in on players and moving players on for market rate value to reinvest in the squad is coming back to bite this football club right now. The crest of the wave that we were all on when we qualified for Champions League, that has definitely pissed away to calm waters with seaweed running through it. And we're really struggling right now as a football club. We need to shake things up. We need a refresh in that squad. And the only way we're going to be able to do it now is to sell players. As I said in my video the other day, we're going to have to sell a big name. But the reason we're going to have to sell a big name is because Eddie would not sell his loyal lieutenants when the cash was the right offer, when the stock was at the highest. People go, oh, why would you sell Almiron and Wilson, when they just got us to the Champions League? Because that's what you do as a football club to evolve. You sell players that get you to certain places and you buy better. That's what Keegan always said. And Eddie didn't do it, and that's why we're in the state we're in now. But going to Callum, I do feel sorry for him as a player, because he's never let Newcastle down when he's been fit. He's 1 and 2 as a goal scorer. He leads the line well. He wears that number 9 with pride. That number can be heavy for a lot of players, not for Callum Wilson when he's fit. He's a very, very good number 9, but he's just never fit. And that's going to be, I think, the story of Callum's career when he does hang the boots up. He'll be fine when he hangs the boots up. He's very charismatic. He's talented. He's got a great podcast with Mikel Antonio. And again, good thoughts to him. Hopefully he comes back from this car crash. But that could end Antonio's career possibly as well. And you never know. Maybe those two are going to go into the podcast game and see the money be made from the likes of Shearer's, in Lineker's podcast, or the overlap and those kind of things. There's big money in those things now. So these guys can go and do that. And Callum could maybe move on from being a footballer and, and obviously earn his money in a different way. But Callum's devastated, of course he is. Newcastle fans are devastated too. We don't want Callum Wilson to be missing. And we don't want to be pissed off that he's missing again. But the club have really fucked this up. They really have. They should have moved that player on. Bunce coming in. I question what the fuck Bunce is doing. Bunce is coming in. No players are improving their fitness whatsoever. People are still picking up niggly injuries. Isak, Pope's injured now. Wilson's perpetually injured. I don't see any change with Bunce, apart from dropping Gordon and Tonali in a game against Brentford where we probably could have done them starting. We might have been ahead in that game and kept ahead in that game. So I don't really know what the fuck Bunce is doing, but they don't talk to you anymore. It's gone radio silent from the board level, and that's a concern as well. But yeah, in terms of Callum Wilson, the time is gone. He has to go at the end of the season. Let his contract run down because nobody will buy him. Move him on. Thanks for everything you've done, Callum. Been a brilliant servant for a football club, but it's time to upgrade, time to move on. And if we have no money to buy a centre forward, let's go look at some loan deals. Let's be creative. Like I say, Evan Ferguson, if he's on loan, let's get him in and get him on loan and see the option to buy him in the summer. If he can come here banging a few goals, fill in for Isak, take the pressure off him as well. You know, he's 20 years old. He could have his better years ahead of him in a black and white shirt for all we know. But one thing's for sure, no matter what his goal record is, Callum Wilson is done at this football club. But I wish him well, and I don't want anyone giving him abuse because it isn't right. He doesn't deserve that. He's a human being at the end of the day, as Craig Hope said in his video, and there's no need to be a prick about that kind of stuff. But it is frustrating, and I think his time is done. Let us know in the comments below what you think about Callum, about the injury. Maybe you can't say you'd be surprised, really. I don't think any of us are. But what would you do with Callum at the end of the season? Would you move him on, let his contract run out? Or do you think somebody will buy him in January? And if so, would you sell him? Let us know, guys. Smash like, help the channel grow, have a belt, and we'll be back with a post-match analysis for the Leicester game. Sorry we couldn't get a preview out. I was away, so we didn't get it done in the end. But I'm back for the post-match against Leicester. Hopefully Newcastle will get the 3 points. I'm a little bit concerned about it, to be brutally honest with you, especially with Pope being out and Jamie Vardy is still capable of having a party, so that does concern me. But we'll be back anyway. You jump in the lines and let us know what you think. Hopefully Newcastle get the job done because we need a performance and a win. Have a belt, everyone. We'll see you later. Cheers.